All right, Shalom. I'm going to start out by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Shemi, Awashai, Shem, Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And Shalom to all the Akim out there pushing the word of sincerity and in truth. And, I'm just going to go into this individual, well, really not an individual, but this idol, this false idol that was set up by Esau, the so-called white man, to deceive our people way back then. Because, history always, tends to repeat itself. As it is written in Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. Our people are worshiping Jesus Christ, white Jesus. They got Jesus all over the houses, Jesus pieces, Jesus tattoos, everything is pertaining to sweet Jesus. Well, that same spirit was all the way back then, during the time of Greece with this individual Serapis Christus, which was established by the so-called white man to set up and structure an idol for the deception and the control of the minds of the people. And that was the purpose of idols all the way since the beginning of time, is to create an image for the people to praise and to give a high amount of reverence, and for policies to be pushed. And it's always going to be, in the spirit of the idol, so to speak. That's what Esau sets up. The idol, the image came with a revelation. The spirit, is dealing through this idol to tell us, to foretell and have us, pay more money, give more tributes to our leaders and things of that nature. And that was Esau's psychological control. And that's the same thing that's going on now. Through the image of Jesus Christ, it's what it's doing, putting our people in a passive state. Turn the other cheek, don't ever fight. And come against the so-called white man. Because Esau will select certain scriptures through the scriptures, and he'll actually have you worshiping and praising the image rather than going into the scriptures and learning yourself. Because it's when you learn and you gain and elevate in understanding, you see what spirit that you're actually fighting. And the main one is the image that Esau is structuring. That's why during the time of kings, all throughout the Old Testament, one of the things when we raised up, what would we do? Destroy the idols and kill the people that actually structure these idols. And it's going to be the same thing now. So, without further ado, I'm just going to jump into it with this individual Serapis. Serapis is a Greco-Egyptian deity. The cult of Serapis was introduced during the 3rd century BC on the order of Pharaoh Ptolemy, the first Soter of the Ptolemaic kingdom. Right. So Ptolemy, first thing he did was got control of Egypt, which Ptolemy, of course, was an Edomite. The Ptolemaic dynasty was warned against the Seleucid Empire, after Alexander's death. But Ptolemy wanted to control Egypt, all right, control those Hamites. So what did he do? He set up the image of Serapis, all right, which Serapis is a mixture of Serapis and Apis the bull, and that's where you have a so-called Serapis Christos, the image that you have here. And it's the same image today. The same, matter of fact, let me get this picture. Same thing today. You can see the same facial features, the complexion, the stringy dog here. Because Esau is going to set up his idol, the image of his people, to have you worship him. He's not going to have you worship the true power. All right. And that's why even, this was for control in Egypt. They didn't set up an Egyptian god. They set up the so-called white man for the Egyptians to worship. All right. So it says, as a means to unify the Greeks and Egyptians in his realm. So this was what? For control, to unify the Greek and Egyptians. And doesn't this image of Jesus Christ unify the Israelites and the so-called white man? All right. But it tells you in Proverbs 11:21, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished. So this devil has our people joining in unification and being in that Catholic spirit, which the word Catholic goes back to the word, matter of fact, I'm not going to get it, the Catholic Tikos, if I'm not mistaken, which means to turn everything into one, and you have these universities. Universities is uni is one, and versus is to turn everything into one. So Esau is all about that one world order through these idols, through these images, through these different universities, these educational systems. Everything is about control and having everybody and one mindset through diversity. Even though you're diverse cultures, you all have that one status of worship, so to speak, which the word diversity goes into wickedness, man. So when you have blacks, so-called blacks, whites, Chinese, Japanese, all in one house, all in one country, living together, going to the same schools, living in the same neighborhoods, that's wickedness, man. All right. It tells you in Sirach what communion has darkness with light. Oh, that's if I'm not mistaken, Amos 3:3. All right. It says also in Corinthians, be not unequally yoked with unbelievers. But in Sirach, it speaks about what communion has the wolf with the sheep. These different nations are wolves, and they show themselves time and time again when they try to unify us, because this is the act of the devil, man. Psychological programming to do what so-called unite, but it's not to unite, it's to control. All right, put the white man on top and push the image, because just like now, everybody wants to be up under the so-called white man's reign, because all of their idols is so-called white. They believe that God is white. They believe whom the world called Jesus Christ is white. The angels is white. Every single picture that you have around your house that has a high so-called representative, or around America, so-called leaders are so-called white men. And it was the exact same thing happened back then during the time of Egypt. So it says, matter of fact, I'm gonna jump down a little bit, but it says Serapis was depicted as Greek in appearance, but with Egyptian trappings, and combined iconography from a great many cults. Yeah, so it said they combine iconography, which iconography is basically the images of graphing of images from a great many cults. So they took all these different images and they actually structured into one, and that's why you have the so-called Esau, but he has a so-called Egyptian garb. Same thing when you watch these so-called you watch these Israelite movies that had a so-called white man in Egyptian in Israelite garbs. They have the so-called white men in Israelite garbs, knowing damn well that the so-called white man wasn't a so-called Israelite man. The white man knows he's not an Israelite, but why does he do that? To program you and to make you believe that he's the chosen. All right. Same thing back then. It says Serapis was depicted as Greek in appearance, but with Egyptian trappings, and combined iconography from a great many cults, signifying both abundance and resurrection. Though Ptolemy I may have created the official code of Serapis and endorsed him as patron of the Ptolemaic dynasty in Alexandria, Serapis was a syncretistic deity derived from the worship of the Egyptian Osiris and Apis. Yeah, that's the mixture. Excuse me, I said Serapis and Apis. It was Osiris and Apis the bull. And also gained attributes from other deities such as chthonic powers linked to the Greek Hades, which is of course the devil, and Demeter, and benevolence linked to Dionysus. So basically, Serapis was a mixture of multiple deities, and they made him like a super god. They put him, they mixed him with Hades, they mixed him with Demeter, and they mixed him with Dionysus. All right, and that's where you have Serapis Christus, and that's where you have the image of course, Jesus Christ on today. Now, of course, the scriptures is the truth. All right, whom the world called Jesus Christ, his true name is Yahweh Shai. He did truly walk 2,000 years ago. He did rise from the dead, and that is the Lord and Savior. But Esau will put an image. This is the false narrative that's been pushed and promoted amongst our people. And I just want to read this little thing under the Code of Serapis. The Code of Serapis was introduced during the 3rd century BC under orders of Pharaoh Ptolemy I Soter of the Ptolemaic kingdom, as a means to unify the Greek and Egyptians in his realm. A Serapeum was any temple or religious precinct devoted to Serapis. Right, so they had a Serapeum. Matter of fact, let's see if I can get the Serapeum. But yeah, here it is. The remains of the Serapeum of Alexandria, which the Serapeum was the temple of worship. And what's the modern day temple of worship? Acts, matter of fact, Acts 7 and 48. The temple, these different churches, and it says that the Lord dwelleth not in temples made by hands, because these temples were all for the worship of what? Serapis and these Greco-Egyptian gods. So it says that Serapeum of Saqqara is located northwest of the pyramid of Doja at Saqqara, a necropolis near Memphis in Lower Egypt. It was a burial place of Apis, the bull, sacred bulls that were incarnations of Ptah. It was believed that the bulls became immortal and after death as Osiris Apis, a name shortened to Serapis, in the Hellenic period. Right, so it was during the time of Hellenization when the so-called white man controlled and dominated, and his whole thing was to do what? Break up the minds of the people. It even tells you that in Maccabees, because the Maccabees was during the time of the Hellenization. All right, the Hasmonean dynasty, which was Judas Maccabee and his sons, and it says that they basically the heathen painted the images. All right, they actually, matter of fact, I'm gonna get it on my phone. Bear with me. This is in fact. I'm going to read this first. This is Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 12. It says, for the devising of idols, matter of fact, I got it now. This is First Maccabees 3 and 48. And laid open the book of the law wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. So the heathen opened the book of the law, which is the scriptures, and they painted the likeness of their images. All right. They made the Most High after their likeness and their image instead of the likeness of the Israelites. All right. And that's the so-called white man controlling you through what? Idols, images. It's Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 12. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life. So the creation of these idols was the beginning of us fornicating and actually going after strange gods that didn't have anything to do with us. It says, for neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever. For by the vainglory of men, for by the vainglory of men they entered into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. Right, so Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai is going to end all these different things because it's all vanity. All right, there's no breath. This image can't give you counsel. You can't talk to this image and get a blessing. All you're going to do is get a curse. Because this image is filled with demons, man. You got all these different people, thousands, if not millions of people that praised this image back then, and you got millions of people that praise this image now. And this image is the reason why people are in such a passive, naive, lower state, because they committed fornication, spiritual fornication, and it corrupted their life, meaning it destroyed their spirit instead of worshiping the true power that you can't see physically with the naked eye. We worship Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai in spirit and in truth. This is Psalms 96 and 4. For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all powers. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Right. It says for all the gods of the nations are idols. They're just images, man. They like I said, they don't see, they don't hear, they don't have breath. All right. And it goes back to the Hebrew word alayal, which is of nothing, good for nothing, worthless. So these images have no value. They're good for nothing. But you have people that spend billions upon billions of dollars, going to these temples just to worship and see these images, man. And the Serapeum, all right, same thing with these different Christian, Catholic, Methodist, Seventh-day Adventist churches, all through the spirit of worship and sweet Jesus. And that's why Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai is going to come back and totally vanquish this play, because our people are going off. But that's the main thing I wanted to go into, is the going into the origins of whom the world, well, really not whom the world, but Jesus Christ, excuse me, that was a slip of the tongue. Jesus Christ, which of course we know who the true Lord is, the Lord and Savior is Yahweh Shah, but this is, the picture that was set up by the so-called white man to deceive, So I want to end it by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shah by Shimmer Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom.